Hello and welcome to Relatively Crafty, a knitting podcast. I'm your host, Christy. I come to you from the Denver area of Colorado, where I live with my husband, Ron, our two daughters, Tatum and Delaney, our tuxedo kitty, Lilu, and our Podango puppy, Sophie. Welcome. This is a knitting podcast. I'm going to talk about the things that I have recently knit, the things that I am currently knitting, and maybe some things that I'm hoping to knit in the future. Today is July 4th, so happy Independence Day for my American friends. Happy belated Canada Day for my Canadian friends. Happy Treason Day for my English friends. What else is there? So yeah, I have been very fortunate to have had the past several days off of work, which is amazing. My work always obviously gets 4th of July off. But then we also have a floating holiday that the company has opted to use on July 5th, so we always get the 4th and 5th off. But our CEO was super generous this week, and he made an announcement that he was going to go ahead and give us the 3rd off as well. So I haven't been at work since Friday, and it's now Tuesday. I have tomorrow off too. It's been wonderful. I have been able to get a decent amount of knitting done, and I've organized things a little bit down here, and not as much as I would have liked. It's still very overwhelming. I have gotten certain things taken care of, but I have too much stuff and not enough space in this little area of the basement that I am in. And every time I come down here and think, okay, well, I'm just gonna spend just gonna get it done until it's done, and then it will be done. And I get down here and I work for a little bit, and then I just get overwhelmed, and I stop and I go upstairs and I knit instead, because and maybe some of you can identify with this. Knitting is something that I can control and I can accomplish things with, and I feel good and accomplished when I do it. And so yeah, that's like my there's a term that Ron likes to use. It's called revenge procrastination. Revenge procrastination. And basically what it means is you stay up too late because that's the only thing that you have control over. So you don't get to control what you're doing all day long. You know, you have to go to work, you have to take care of this, you have to go run this errand, you have to go pick up this, you have to clean this house, you have to make this dinner, and so you have no control over it, and so you stay up too late in order to have control over something, and it totally kicks you in the tail end, because you're then tired for the next day. But Ron does that a lot. He stays up too late playing video games or whatever, because that's the thing that he can control, and then he's tired the next morning, and it just builds, right? I don't do that. I am actually an early to bed type person. I wasn't always, but for the past several years I have been. So I am in my bed most nights by 8 o'clock, and then I read for a bit, and then I fall asleep fairly early. I learned a long time ago that if I do not get 8 hours of sleep, I can't function. So yeah, I go to bed early, and I get up and I'm up and at work by 6:30 every morning. So I don't do it that way. But what I do is that I will come home and I will ignore all of my chores and just knit. Or if it's really bad, I will just play on my phone, watching like reels on Instagram, or watching Facebook videos. I was going to say watching knitting podcasts, but normally when I'm watching knitting podcasts, I am knitting. And if I am too overwhelmed to knit, then I am too overwhelmed to watch knitting podcasts. I need to just have something that's like, less than a minute long with Instagram reels. Or I think it's like Farm Harvest Solitaire on my phone, and that I'll play for hours. And I'm like, what did I do? I got off of work got home from work at like 4:30, and now it is bedtime at 8 o'clock, and I have done absolutely nothing. I didn't even knit. So that's what I do. But all this to say, when I start to feel a little bit overwhelmed, then I just want to sit and knit. And then I'm like, okay, yes, look, I have created something. I may have sat down for the past 3 hours, but I created something while I was doing that. So I've accomplished something. And that's true to a certain extent, but I also could have like organized my yarn area or cleaned my kitchen or, done the laundry or something like that. And instead I just knit. So, yeah. You guys go through that? I'm sure I'm not the only one. Anyway, so let's talk about knitting. I have 2 finished objects, and let me tell you, I am so full of knitting mojo right now. Part of the thing, I mentioned that when I'm watching knitting podcasts, I am knitting. So I've been doing that a lot lately, and watching knitting podcasts clues me into patterns that maybe I wouldn't have seen otherwise. And so then I want to make more things. So my queue on Ravelry has grown exponentially in the past couple of days, really, since the weekend. And I've watched a lot of knitting podcasts. I really like the ones where they talk a lot about the things that they've knit, like they've knit a lot of things, or they talk a lot about patterns. I don't really care so much. Well, I do, enjoy, but the ones that talk a lot about yarn or the bags that they've got or the stuff that they've bought, yeah, that's fine, and I don't dislike those. But the ones that are talking about patterns, especially ones that they have made, or a perfect example, young knit folk, who I've just recently, the past couple of months, came across. She's in the Ozarks of Arkansas, and she will do like, here's 10 summer knits, 10 things to knit during the summer, 10 things to knit with great cables and stuff like that. And so it's a quick thing, and she just shows patterns that she's come across that she thinks would be great. And I absolutely love those, because then I get to see new things, because really I want to know about new knitting things that I wouldn't have come across organically. So yeah, I was going to talk about the things that I finished, wasn't I? I'm sorry. So I have asked my family to not walk around upstairs, and I will try to stop talking, so I can cut out when they walk around too much upstairs. But I don't have a lot of control over it, and it is a major downfall of podcasting in the basement in my house. This basement is not finished. Underneath this beautiful tapestry is just cement, and the beams, there's no what's it called, drywall above me. It's just exposed beams. And so so all the sound comes through, and our house is not new. It was built in the 70s, the early 70s. It's older than I am, and so yeah, it's just the way it is. So I do apologize. But finished objects, I have 2, as I said. One just finished this morning. It's one of the reasons why I decided to go ahead and podcast today, because it was done. But I will say that it is not blocked. And that is the little cardigan that I made for my mom. Here it is, all finished. Like I said, it's not blocked, so the hem and button band are still curling a little bit. But it is complete. I don't have a proper FO shot because it's not blocked. but I did have Tatum take a picture of me wearing it here. Now, I will say that it looks like it's too short because my mom is shorter than I am. She has shorter arms and a shorter torso, and so yeah, so it fits her. I went over to their house for dinner on Sunday and was almost finished with the first sleeve at that point, and so I just kept, trying it, against her arm, having her put her hand through the sleeve, and so I've got it just the right length for her, and yeah, and then yesterday and this morning I finished the second sleeve. I have to admit that I was over this sweater a long time ago. This is knit out of Barocco Millefiori Light, I believe. Yes, that is the tag. It is a 50% wool, 50% acrylic yarn, and it's got a halo. You guys can see that I've put up another light, my umbrella light, and I'm hoping that that's going to help, because while the light in the ceiling is very bright, it's not very good tone. So anyway, this is the yarn. You can see that it's kind of loosely spun, and it's a thick and thin. In fact, some spots it gets very thin, and then other spots it's so loosely spun that it would just come apart. Let's see if, oh no, not that one. Well, yeah, there you go. See, it's, so that was kind of a little bit of an obnoxious bit. There was one part, really only one ball, where it was so loose that I was like, no, I'm gonna have to take this bit out. And I did come across one ball that had a knot, like, I'm not joking, it was about this far into the first ball, or to the one side of the ball. And I was like, why did you tie that on for less than a yard of yarn? Why not just let it be, really? Because it's just useless. Thankfully, it was at the beginning. Well, I guess if it had been at the end, it would have been the same, but still. So this yarn is, it's a gradual shift, color shift, and it gives it, bits of it have a shine, almost like silk, especially in the green and the blue bits. And it's definitely got a halo. It gives a very mohair-y look, and it also sheds like mohair, so that has been a bit of an annoyance working on it. This has been my work project, the thing that I work on during lunch, and I have been talking to people, and I could feel little bits of fuzz like in my nose or in my mouth, in my eyes. So that's been kind of an annoyance, but it is very pretty. I have to admit that I love the way the colors change. I did not alternate skeins at all. I just knit one until it was done and then started the other one. So you can see that this first ball, which is all of this, had a lot more green in it. I think these balls were a little bit prettier down here at the bottom. And then I took one ball for the sleeves and just split it in half, so the sleeves wouldn't be, I couldn't make them twins, identical twins, but I could make them fraternal twins. So they are with the same ball, so they have the same colors in them. And the pattern that I started this with was Fable by Alicia Plummer, I believe. Hang on. Yes, Alicia Plummer. And I was going to make it for myself, and then I realized that I didn't want it because I knew I wasn't going to want to wear this yarn. Mohair and this kind of halo-y stuff tickles me. Maybe one day I should try the cereal alpaca. I've heard good things about that. But I just wasn't into it. And Mom, still felt bad about the sweater Mom didn't get, even though I have replaced it with another sweater. I still wanted to give it to Mom. That's all. I wanted to give it to Mom. And so I had 4 balls total. This is all 1 ball to about this much is the second ball, and then this bottom bit is the third ball. I have this left. I think it's about half. I haven't weighed it, but it's about half of the ball, maybe a little bit more. And then, as I said, I split the 4th ball into halves, into 2 cakes for the sleeves, and I have this much left. So I would say I used like 3 1/4 balls. So they're like 350 yards for each ball. So maybe 1,100 yards. It's knit on a 7. It's a nice loose gauge. I'm sure you guys can see me through there. So it will be a good transition sweater. And yeah, so as I said, I started with the Fable, which is a top-down pullover, and I decided to make it a cardigan. I basically just used the Fable pattern until I took it off the sleeves. Took the sleeves off. So I got the numbers for the raglan, and it's just a basic raglan, and then just knit the rest of it. At some point, before you take the sleeves off, you're supposed to join in the round. I did not, obviously, and then I just took the sleeves off and put the pattern away. And so the sleeves themselves are just knit out of my brain. I just picked up the stitches I needed. I think I might have, yeah, I think for this size I needed 84 stitches. So I made it so that I had the same stitch count for the sleeves as the pattern. And then I just decreased every 8 rows until right before the end of the sleeve. And then I did 2 rounds of a significant decrease of like 10 or 12 stitches each round. So it gives the sleeve a little bit of a bell. And then I went down to the smaller needles. I think that the body's knit in a 7, and I think I did the sleeve cuffs on a 5. So it gives it just a little bit of a belling, not huge amounts, but I wanted to give it just a little bit of that looser, because the whole sweater is kind of loose, but you don't want Mom and I don't want the sleeves rolling over our hands. So yeah, there is the whole thing. It is all done. I'm going to block it tonight and then give it to Mom the next time I see her. So you guys won't see it again, but I will take some proper FO shots outside in the nice light instead of in my daughter's bedroom, and I'll post those on Instagram. And if I remember when I do my next podcast, maybe I'll show them to you. I have one more FO, as I mentioned, and that is my shaved ice. I almost wanted to say salted pig. Like, that's not the right name for that. The Shaved Ice by Casapinka. I finished that as well. I love it. It's perfect. I blocked it pretty aggressively because I'm not very good at gauge swatching. I just pick a size. So I mentioned this before. I'm on a medication that helps me lose weight. I've lost a little over 30 pounds now, and so I'm just kind of making things in a size that's close enough to what my size is, knowing that if it's too small, it'll fit eventually. And so this, when I finished it and pre-blocking put it on, it was a little snug and a little short. Mostly it was short, and I was like, oh, because I did add some length, and I thought, well, maybe I didn't add enough length. So when I blocked it, I have those blocking like combs from Knit Picks that, you know, they come, there's like it's like 8 T-pins together, and you just put the whole comb in. And those are great for blocking garments, especially because I don't know, you guys ever had the T-pin where you like get like these, you're trying to aggressively block something and you get kind of like a scallop look because you're pulling it out, but it's only staying pulled out where that one T-pin is, and unless you put 85 million T-pins in, then you're gonna get that scallop look, and I hate that. So with the combs, I avoided that, and so I basically started at the bottom and spread it out as far as I could, and then just spread the whole thing out so that it was in a nice rectangle, as wide as it possibly could go and as long as it possibly could go. And now it fits perfectly. I will say though, that one of the problems with this thing is that there's lots of little bits to grab, catch on things. So I have had issues with catching one thread and it getting pulled out of whack. It's easy to fix. It's just I don't have time right now to fix it. And my mom has been after me for the past couple of years to submit something in the county fair, and that is this month. And so I'm like, okay, well, you know what, I'll submit this. So that's another reason why I'm podcasting today, is because she needs to pick it up here pretty soon to take it to be submitted. And so now I need to fix that. Anyway, here is my shaved ice. The pattern is by Casapinka, as I mentioned. The yarn is Kama Rose Yaku, which I got from the Loopy U. This is a very cost-effective yarn, $8.50 a ball at the Loopy U. I'm sure you could maybe find it cheaper elsewhere or more expensive elsewhere. I don't know, but I did like it a lot for this sweater. They're 50-gram balls. I made the 4th size, and I used a single ball of the green, the coral, and the blue. I had, I don't know, 3 to 5 grams left of the green and the coral. I had only like 1.5 yards left of the blue. But still only a single ball. And then I used 1.6 balls of the yellow. Obviously the yellow is a bigger bit, but I knew that it would be, and that's why I picked my favorite of the 4 colors. So yeah, it is finished. It was super fun to knit. Really, really enjoyable. It did take me a lot longer to get this last section done, but mostly that was because I was going through that time where I just couldn't focus. I needed to have nothing to do when I came home from work, and so I was spending a lot more time staring at my phone and a lot less time knitting. If this had just been straight stockinette, I probably would have kept knitting, but I had to, you know, this is bottom up, so I had to do this side, and then I had to do this side, and then I had to do the back, and there is a stitch pattern here, which wasn't hard. Very easy to remember stitch pattern, but it did take thought, because I had to do decreases and all kinds of things. And then I was able to pick up and knit the little sleeve bits, this little ribbing bit, and then the neck fairly quickly and easily. But I will say she did not give a good count for picking up on the sleeves. Like normally they'll say, you know, pick up and knit this many stitches, which usually works out to be 3 to every 4 rows or something like that. Casapinka didn't say that on the sleeve. Now, if I had read through the entire pattern, like everybody suggests, then I would have seen that she did say that for the neckline, and it was like every 2 to every 3 rows. But I did have to kind of figure out the math myself for the sleeves. It wasn't hard. I'm just being complainy. But yeah, I did really enjoy the fact that you know, the changing of the yarn means that you know that it's growing. You can see that it's growing. The patterns, each section has its own stitch pattern, and none of them were hard. This blue bit was a little fiddly, a little less enjoyable. But everything else was pretty, I mean, it wasn't hard. The blue wasn't hard. And yeah, I really am pleased with how it turned out. It fits perfectly. I will get a lot of use out of it. This is going to be great for wearing now that the weather is warm. Obviously, I wore it to my parents' house on Sunday and to church. But I will also be able to wear it in the office when it's not so warm. You know, you can wear it over a long sleeve shirt and all kinds of things. Yeah, so I think this will get a lot of use, and I do really like it. If you recall, I bought 2 of each color, so I have about a half skein of the yellow, a little less than a half skein of the yellow, and then a full skein of these 3. So I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do with it. I did mention in my last podcast that I have an idea, but I am trying to stop buying things quite so much. I have a lot of yarn in this room, and enough to make a plethora of sweaters and just as many socks. So I really don't need to buy any more yarn. So I'm really trying to knit from stash and stop purchasing. So that being said, I may buy some more of that Kama Rose to make that sweater that I talked about in my last podcast, but I'm not going to do it anytime soon. So the rest of it has been put in a bag, and it will sit there and wait until I am ready to purchase yarn again. I am also going to destash some things because I have a lot that I'm just not going to knit. So yeah. Okay. So that's all the things that I have finished. And I only have 2 works in progress. Well, technically I still have those socks that I showed you, the one finished one of Ron's in my last podcast. I have not worked on them at all. I haven't touched them. I'm not in sock mode. I am in garment mode totally. So they've just kind of been sitting aside, and I'll get to the second one eventually. Like I said, I'm in garment mode, and so and I'm really into summer garment mode. So I went through, as I said, I've been watching a lot of podcasts, been looking at Ravelry a lot, and I decided to go ahead and cast on 2 new sweaters. As I mentioned in previous podcasts, I like to, when I'm about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through one, I like to start another one, so that I always have one that's really good in progress, so that it's not like I have to finish one and then be trying to figure out what I'm going to knit next, and having that desert of no proper knits on the needles. I don't like that. So this works out well. And I'm going to be going back to Minnesota here pretty soon. And so I needed something that I could knit while I was in Minnesota. Like I said, I like to take, because I'm so afraid of running out of knitting, I wanted to take a brand new project that had just a little bit started on it. So all that to say, I have cast on for the outline tee, which is a Jessie May Designs kind of a loose gauge, oversized cropped t-shirt. I have been wanting to knit one of Jessie May's for a while and just hadn't gotten around to it. And so I finally decided to cast on, and I picked out the brightest yarn I have in my stash. You guys know that I like color, and I like a lot of happy colors. But this, yeah, it's really that bright. This is highlighter yellow. It is a Three Irish Girls, I don't know if they still dye, Three Irish Girls yarn. It's in their Adorn sock base, which is an 80/20, and the colorway is highlighter. I got it at my local yarn shop, which is Colorful Yarns and Centennial, and I got it on sale at 2 different times. So my dye lots probably don't match, and I'm not going to worry about that for this kind of thing. But yeah, it is bright, bright, bright. I have 3 skeins of it. I'm probably not going to need all 3 to make this top, I would assume, because it's cropped and it's short sleeved. And I only used, like 2.5 for that Hawk Ridge that I knit. And that was a full length t-shirt. So I'll probably end up with at least enough to make a hat. I think I have some mohair that's left over. I have some in yellow and I have some in orange. I also have a full skein in like an undyed. So I might knit a hat out of this with some mohair to kind of tone it down a little bit. Because I mean, I don't care. I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to if the colors fit with my skin tone or anything like that. I do know that I am fortunate enough to have a skin tone that goes along with a good amount of colors, but I just wear things that I think look pretty, and so yeah. So yeah, I could totally see myself making this into a hat. That is neither here nor there. I have cast it on. I have not done much with it since casting it on. It is so bright, guys. It looks so much brighter in the camera, really. It is a little warmer in real life than it is in the camera. But I'm making, this is meant to be super oversized, so I am making size the 2X, which is meant to fit a 48 to a 50. I'm currently like a 46, but it's supposed to have 6 to 12 inches of positive ease. I really wanted it to be wide and flowy. So yeah, of course I didn't check gauge, but I did afterwards, and I'm pretty much on gauge, so I'm not too worried about it. But it's going to be big, and it's going to be beautiful. But it's a bottom up, obviously, and I have got it going. I basically have to knit like this for another 7 or 8 inches, and then I split for the front and back. And yeah, so this is what I'm going to take with me when I go to Minnesota, and I can just sit and knit on it. It is so much fun. I love the colors. I did do a super loose cast on so that it would be that wide. I want it to be just wider than you think that it should be. So yeah, that's what I'm working on for that. And like I said, it's just been kind of sitting here. When I go to Minnesota, it'll be back in progress. This is a bag that my aunt made for me. We got these panels at a quilt store, and they had little animals. So she put the owl and the raccoon together. I also have one with songbirds and bunnies, and then a squirrel and a fox. Yeah, it's great having a seamstress for an aunt who likes to make things, because then I get bags. Okay, last work in progress. Oh, there's the tag I was looking for. In the process of kind of like going through things and looking at things, I came across this Halloween kit that I had gotten from Mustache Yarns 2 Halloweens ago, 2021 maybe. And it's half skeins. It's 6 half skeins and then a 20-gram mini in a sparkle. But I was more interested in the 6 half skeins in these Halloween colors, and I thought it was so pretty. And I really wanted to make a top out of it. And now I can make one in my size in the yarn that I have left. I was going to have to add something to it before I started losing weight, and so I don't have to anymore. So as I said, they're half skeins. I've got jack-o'-lantern. This is all Mustache Yarns. I believe this one is Cauldron, just black. Purple Potion. Night Owl, maybe? Or maybe the black is Night Owl. Goosebumps, it's green. And then a variegated using all those colors called Strange Brew. So they're each 50 grams. I have about almost 1,400 yards. And I've decided to cast on the Potluck pullover. By Victoria Zakanowicz, which is I just basically did a search on Ravelry for scrappy patterns, and wanted something very simple that was going to be easy for me to do however I needed to. And so I came across the Potluck pullover, and I'm gonna make my sweater out of that. I am kind of just flying by the seat of my pants on this. I don't know how many stripes I'm gonna get. I arbitrarily picked 8 row stripes. This pattern was great because it has you cast on the neckband in garter instead of picking it up afterwards. So I chose to do that in the black. And then I've done basically 1 full repeat. And so next will be the black again. I'm not going to do 8 rows on the black. I'm going to only do 4 because I want to save the black for the sleeve. I'm going to do the same thing with the sleeve with a garter hem, and then for the bottom of the sweater as well. And I figured if I do it in the black and I run out, because I only have a 50 gram skein, if I run out, then I can just find some more black sock yarn because it's just black, right? Whereas it would be a lot harder to match, this green but black is black. I realize that there are different shades of black, but it's going to be a lot easier to match black than it is anything else. So yeah, I haven't gotten very far, just basically gone through one. I really wanted to work on this more yesterday, but I had to get my mom's sweater done. But yeah, it's just going to be a t-shirt that that I can wear in October, short-sleeved, and I'm knitting it on a 5 with fingering weight yarn, so it is a nice loose gauge as well, but that's just fine. And yeah, real basic. Got not a whole lot to say about it yet, but I'm excited about it. I think it's going to look really cool, and it'll be great to wear in October. So yeah, that's what I'm doing with that. Yeah. Okay. I do have, as I said, I want to do a dstash. I used to be that you could just post things in Ravelry, in your, will trade or sell, stash thingy, change from being in stash to will trade or sale, and, or will trade or sell, and then you post a post on the ISO dstash group and you're good to go. But it doesn't seem to be that that's how you sell yarn as much anymore. If anybody has any ideas, I don't really want to open an Etsy store just to have a dstash, but I have thought about doing a new Instagram account just to have for dstash. I know that Michelle of the Naughty Knitwits has done that. Do you guys buy that way? Is that something? Do you guys have a better way to destash yarn? There's lots of things that that I'd love to destash, and since I don't get together with a knitting group anymore in person, I don't really, online is the only way that I can think to do this, and I'm not looking to make my money back. I just want to, get a little bit of, recoup a little bit of it. I never sell it for as much as I paid for it, and get it going to a good home. So if you guys have any ideas on that, I would love to hear them. And yeah, I guess that's it. So I will go ahead and let you guys go now, and I'll talk to you later. Have a wonderful rest of your 4th of July, and happy knitting.